The scent of burnt coffee and desperation clung to my skin as I scrubbed the same spot on the bar counter for the third time. My fingers were raw from the industrial cleaner. My back ached from 6 hours of bending and lifting, and the fluorescent lights of Café Esperanza buzzed like angry wasps above my head. Outside, the São Paulo rain hammered against the windows, turning the street into a river of neon reflections and broken promises. "Helena, table 4 needs clearing." Marcos, the shift manager, barely glanced at me as he passed, his voice carrying that edge of impatience he reserved for staff he considered disposable, which, after 3 months of working here, I'd learned meant all of us. I nodded silently, grabbing the gray plastic tub and making my way through the cramped cafe. This place was nothing like the life I'd known before Lucas died, before my world shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one sharp enough to draw blood. Before I became invisible, just another tired woman in a stained apron, serving overpriced espresso to people who never looked her in the eye. But invisibility had its advantages. Nobody noticed when you asked questions. Nobody remembered your face when you lingered near conversations that weren't meant for you. Nobody suspected that the quiet girl wiping down tables was actually gathering evidence, piece by piece, name by name, building a case against the man who'd destroyed her life. Dante Montero. The name tasted like poison on my tongue, even when I only thought it. I'd been tracking him for 8 months. 8 months since I'd found Lucas's apartment ransacked, his phone smashed, his few possessions scattered like he'd left in a hurry or been taken against his will. 8 months since the police had closed his missing person case with a shrug and a patronizing explanation about young men who got involved with the wrong crowd. 8 months since I'd realized that if I wanted justice for my brother, I'd have to find it myself. The investigation had consumed everything. I'd quit my job at the marketing firm. I'd moved from our comfortable apartment in Jardines to a studio in the Zona Leste, where the walls were so thin I could hear my neighbors' arguments in stereo. I'd sold everything Lucas and I had accumulated together, our parents' few heirlooms, my jewelry, even my car, using the money to pay informants, to bribe low-level criminals, to buy my way into the edges of São Paulo's underworld. And every thread I'd pulled had led back to Dante Montero. He owned half the city, though you wouldn't know it from the public records. Restaurants, clubs, import businesses, all legitimate on the surface. But underneath, whispers of money laundering, protection rackets, and something darker. People who crossed him disappeared. Witnesses changed their stories. Investigators suddenly decided to pursue other cases, including my brother. Lucas had worked for one of Montero's front companies, a logistics firm that moved goods through the port. I'd found Lucas's notes hidden in a book at his apartment, coded references to shipments that didn't match manifests, payments that went through shell companies. He'd been investigating Montero from the inside, and then he'd vanished. I cleared table 4 mechanically, stacking plates and cups with the efficiency born of repetition. Through the window, I could see the lights of the business district, towers of glass and steel where men like Dante Montero made their fortunes, while people like me scrubbed their coffee stains. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I glanced at the screen, my heart jumping at the message from an unknown number. "He'll be at Restaurante Fogo tonight. 9 p.m. Private room upstairs. Come alone." The informant. Finally. I'd been paying him for 3 months, feeding him money I couldn't afford to spend, waiting for this exact information. A chance to get close to Montero. A chance to confront him with the evidence I'd compiled. A chance to look into the eyes of the man who'd killed my brother and demand answers. My hands trembled as I pocketed the phone. Restaurante Fogo was one of Montero's establishments, an expensive steakhouse where the city's elite gathered to make deals over aged wine and imported beef. The kind of place where a woman in a cafe uniform would be laughed out the door. I checked my watch. 6:47 p.m. I had just over 2 hours to finish my shift, go home, change into the one decent dress I still owned, and make it across the city. My stomach twisted with a mixture of fear and anticipation. This was it. The moment I'd been preparing for since the day Lucas disappeared. "Helena, you good?" Sophia, the only coworker who'd bothered to learn my name, appeared at my elbow. Her kind eyes searched my face with concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired." "You're always tired, girl." She squeezed my shoulder gently. "When was the last time you actually took a day off? You're going to burn out." If only she knew that burnout was the least of my concerns. That I'd been running on rage and grief for so long, I wasn't sure what I'd be without them. That tonight, I was walking into a lion's den with nothing but my anger and a folder full of evidence that might get me killed. The rest of my shift crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every minute felt like an hour, every task an obstacle between me and what I needed to do. Finally, mercifully, Marcos told me I could go. I grabbed my backpack from the employee locker, barely bothering to change out of my uniform before running for the bus. The ride home was a blur of rain-streaked windows and racing thoughts. I ran through what I'd say to Montero, how I'd confront him, what I'd do if he denied everything or threatened me or simply had his security throw me out. I had copies of Lucas's notes, photos I'd taken of shipments, records of payments that didn't add up. It wasn't enough for the police, who were probably on Montero's payroll anyway, but it might be enough to rattle him, to make him slip. Or it might be enough to get me killed, just like Lucas. My studio apartment was exactly as I'd left it, sparse and functional. The walls were covered with everything I'd collected about Dante Montero. Photos clipped from society pages showing him at charity galas, always impeccably dressed, always surrounded by politicians and business leaders. Surveillance photos I'd taken myself, grainy images of him entering and leaving his various properties. A map of his known holdings, marked with red pins. And in the center, Lucas's photo, my brother's smiling face a constant reminder of why I was doing this. I showered quickly, the hot water a luxury I rarely allowed myself. As I dried off, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose, my cheekbones sharp beneath skin that had gone pale from too many late nights and not enough sun. My dark hair, once glossy and well-maintained, hung limp around my shoulders. My green eyes, Lucas's eyes, held a hardness that hadn't been there a year ago. This investigation had consumed me, body and soul. But tonight, it would be worth it. Tonight, I'd face Dante Montero and demand the truth. I pulled on the black dress I'd worn to Lucas's memorial service, the only formal clothing I owned. It was simple, but elegant. Fitted enough to pass in an expensive restaurant, but conservative enough not to draw unwanted attention. I added the pearl necklace our grandmother had left me, one of the few items I hadn't sold. My fingers shook as I fastened the clasp. The folder of evidence went into a sleek black clutch I'd borrowed from Sophia weeks ago, claiming I needed it for a date. She'd been so excited for me, so hopeful that I might finally be moving on from my grief. If she knew what I was really planning, she'd lock me in my apartment and call the police. I checked my reflection one last time. Professional, composed, nothing like the cafe worker or the obsessed woman whose walls were covered in conspiracy theories. I looked like someone who belonged at Restaurante Fogo, someone who could walk through the door and demand a meeting with one of the city's most powerful men. The Uber ride to the restaurant took 40 minutes through rain-clogged traffic. I watched the city transform through the window, moving from my working-class neighborhood through the commercial districts and into the gleaming heart of São Paulo's financial center. Restaurant Fogo occupied the ground floor of a modern glass tower, its entrance flanked by valet attendants in crisp uniforms. I took a deep breath, steadying myself before stepping out of the car. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflecting the warm light spilling from the restaurant. I could hear the murmur of expensive conversation, the clink of crystal. the kind of refined noise that spoke of money and power. The doorman looked me over, his expression professionally neutral, despite obviously cataloging my lack of jewelry beyond the pearls, my off-the-rack dress, my nervous energy. "Good evening, Senora. Do you have a reservation? I'm meeting someone in the private room upstairs," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Dante Montero." Something flickered in the doorman's eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or caution. "One moment, please." He spoke quietly into a radio, his gaze never leaving me. I felt exposed under his scrutiny, certain he could see through my composed exterior to the terrified woman beneath. After what felt like an eternity, he nodded. "You may go up. Second floor, room Nettuno." My heels clicked against marble floors as I entered the restaurant. It was even more opulent than I'd imagined, all dark wood and mood lighting, with waiters gliding between tables bearing plates that probably cost more than my weekly salary. I found the stairs and climbed, my heart hammering so hard I was certain everyone could hear it. The second floor was quieter, more intimate, with a hallway lined with doors bearing names of Roman gods: Jupiter, Marte, Venus, and at the end, Nettuno, Neptune, god of the sea and earthquakes. I raised my hand to knock, but the door swung open before I could touch it. A man in a black suit stood there, his eyes cold and assessing. Security, obviously. He looked me over with the practiced gaze of someone trained to identify threats. "Name?" he asked, his Portuguese carrying a slight accent I couldn't place. "Helena Costa," I said, lifting my chin. "I'm here to see Dante Montero." He stepped aside without a word, revealing the room beyond. It was smaller than I'd expected, dominated by a single table set for two. Candles flickered, casting dancing shadows on walls painted a deep charcoal. The table held wine glasses, elegant place settings, but no food yet. And standing by the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the glittering city, silhouetted against the lights of São Paulo, was Dante Montero himself. He was taller than he'd appeared in photos, perhaps 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his navy suit perfectly. His dark hair was swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and classical proportions. But it was when he turned to face me that my breath caught. His eyes, a striking shade of gray like storm clouds, fixed on me with an intensity that made me feel simultaneously seen and dissected. "Helena Costa," he said, and my name and his voice sounded different, weighted with meaning I couldn't decipher. "I've been expecting you." The air in the room seemed to thicken around his words. "I've been expecting you." How could he have been expecting me? Unless... My mind raced through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. The informant who'd sent me here, the doorman who'd let me up without question, the security guard who'd opened the door before I could knock. This wasn't a confrontation I'd orchestrated. This was a trap I'd walked into willingly. "I don't know what you mean," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice even as my hand tightened around my clutch. The evidence inside suddenly felt less like a weapon, and more like proof of how thoroughly I'd underestimated this man. Dante moved away from the window with fluid grace, each step deliberate and controlled. In the candlelight, I could see details the photographs had missed. A thin scar along his left eyebrow. The way his suit jacket hung perfectly, tailored to emphasize the power in his frame. The gold watch on his wrist that probably cost more than I'd made in the past year. "Don't you?" He gestured to the chair across from his. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss, you and I." "I'll stand." The words came out sharper than I'd intended. "This won't take long." His lips curved into something that might have been amusement. "You've been following me for 8 months, Helena, paying Roberto Silva for information about my movements, photographing my properties, interviewing former employees of my companies. You even spoke with Judge Ferreira's clerk about shipment records." He paused, letting each revelation land like a blow. And you think this won't take long? The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. Roberto Silva was my informant, the one who'd sent me here tonight. Judge Ferreira's clerk was someone I'd bribed 2 months ago. Former employees. I'd been so careful, always meeting them in public places, never using my real name. You've known, I whispered, the realization crashing over me like ice water. All this time, you've known exactly what I was doing. Of course. Dante pulled out the chair he'd offered, his movements unhurried. I make it my business to know everything that happens in my city, especially when it concerns my family. Your family? The word tasted bitter. Lucas was my family. My brother. The only family I had left after our parents died. Something flickered across Dante's face, too quick for me to identify. Sit down, Helena. Please. There are things you need to understand about your brother, about what happened to him. I know what happened. My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. He discovered what you really are, what your businesses really do. He was going to expose you, so you had him killed. Is that what you think? Dante's voice remained calm, infuriatingly calm, as though we were discussing the weather rather than murder. That I killed Lucas Costa? I have evidence. I opened my clutch with shaking fingers, pulling out the folder. Lucas's notes about the shipments, the discrepancies in the manifests, the shell companies, the payments that don't match any legitimate business transaction. I threw the folder onto the table between us, papers scattering across the white tablecloth. I know you had him killed because he knew too much. Dante looked down at the scattered evidence, then back at me. You're right about one thing. Lucas did discover things he shouldn't have. Things that put him in danger. He leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. But not from me, Helena. From people far more dangerous than I could ever be. I don't believe you. But even as I said it, doubt crept into my voice. There was something in his expression, a sincerity that didn't match the cold Mafia boss I'd expected. Your brother wasn't investigating me, Dante said quietly. He was working for me. He'd been one of my most trusted people for 2 years before he disappeared. The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. You're lying. Am I? Dante reached into his jacket, a movement that made the security guard by the door tense, and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward me. Recognize this? The photo showed Lucas, unmistakably Lucas, sitting across a table from Dante in what looked like this very room. My brother was smiling, relaxed, his hand extended in a handshake. The timestamp read 3 months before he disappeared. Photoshop, I said weakly. You could have... Dante swiped to the next image. Lucas and Dante at what looked like a construction site, both wearing hard hats, reviewing blueprints. Then another. Lucas at a formal event, standing among men in expensive suits, a drink in his hand. And another, and another. Dozens of photos spanning what looked like years. Your brother came to me when he was 19, Dante said, pocketing his phone. He needed money for his sister's university tuition. Did you know that, Helena? That every scholarship you received, every grant that covered your expenses, was actually Lucas working for me? My knees went weak. I reached for the chair and sank into it before I could fall. That's not possible. Lucas worked in logistics. He had a normal job. He did have a logistics job, one I gave him as cover while he helped me with more sensitive matters. Dante sat across from me, his movements controlled. Lucas was brilliant with numbers, with patterns. He could spot discrepancies that others missed, find connections that seemed invisible. That's why I trusted him with investigating the Cavalcanti organization. The Cavalcanti. The name was familiar. whispered in the same fearful tones as Dante's own. Another family. Rivals. They'd been using one of my legitimate businesses to move their product, hiding it among my clean shipments. Dante's jaw tightened. Lucas discovered the operation. He gathered evidence just like you did. But the Cavalcantis found out before we could move against them. No, I shook my head, refusing to accept this version of reality. Lucas would have told me. We told each other everything. Did you tell him you were struggling with money after your father died? That you were working 3 jobs to stay in university? Dante asked gently. Or did you hide it from him because you didn't want him to worry? The question hit too close. I had hidden my struggles from Lucas, had pretended everything was fine even when I was eating 1 meal a day and walking to classes because I couldn't afford the bus. Lucas protected you by keeping you separate from this world, Dante continued. He made me promise that if anything ever happened to him, I would make sure you stayed safe, that you'd finish university, build a good life, never know about any of this. Then why didn't you? The words burst out of me. Why didn't you keep that promise? Why did you let me spiral into this obsession, sell everything I owned, destroy my career, my life? For the first time, Dante's composure cracked. His hand clenched into a fist on the table. Because you wouldn't stop. I had people watching you from the beginning, ready to intervene if you got too close to real danger. I paid your landlord to forget about eviction notices. I made sure you got the cafe job through a manager who owed me a favor. I even fed you false leads to keep you away from the Cavalcantis. His eyes blazed with sudden intensity. But you were relentless, Helena. Brilliant and relentless, and so damn stubborn that nothing I did could make you stop. The room spun around me. Everything I'd thought I knew, every assumption I'd built my investigation on, was crumbling. The informant who sent me here tonight works for me, has since the beginning. Dante's voice softened. I brought you here tonight because you were getting too close to asking the wrong questions to the wrong people. Because the Cavalcantis have noticed your investigation. And because... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the next words. Because I'm tired of watching you destroy yourself over something you don't understand. I stared at him. This man I'd hated for 8 months. This stranger who claimed to have been protecting me all along. Where's Lucas? The question came out barely above a whisper. Is he dead? Something unreadable crossed Dante's face. That's not my answer to give. What does that mean? I lunged forward, my hands slamming on the table. Tell me if my brother is dead. The security guard moved, but Dante raised a hand, stopping him. What it means, he said carefully, is that some questions are dangerous to answer, for everyone involved. Before I could respond, the door burst open. A different security guard, this one breathing hard, spoke rapid Portuguese too low for me to hear. But I saw Dante's expression change, saw the cold mask of the Mafia boss slide back into place. We need to leave, he said, standing. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you until you tell me the Cavalcantis know you're here. His voice cut through my protest like steel. They're on their way. You have 2 choices, Helena. Come with me and live. Or stay here and find out exactly what happened to people who threatened their organization. My mind raced. Every instinct screamed that this was manipulation, another trap. But the genuine urgency in Dante's voice, the way his security team was already moving into defensive positions, suggested the threat was real. How do I know you're not? You don't. Dante was already moving toward a door I hadn't noticed, hidden in the wall paneling. You have to choose right now to trust me or not. But choose quickly, because in about 3 minutes, this restaurant is going to become a war zone. As if to punctuate his words, I heard shouting from downstairs, glass breaking, screams. Dante extended his hand to me, his gray eyes locked on mine. Helena, please. I looked at his hand, then at the folder of evidence scattered across the table. 8 months of investigation. 8 months of certainty about who the villain was. And now, nothing was certain, except the sound of violence getting closer. I took his hand. Dante's hand was warm and solid around mine as he pulled me through the hidden door into a narrow service corridor. The sounds of chaos from the restaurant faded as the door clicked shut behind us, replaced by the harsh echo of our footsteps on concrete stairs. "Where are we going?" I gasped, struggling to keep up in my heels as we descended. "Somewhere safe." That was all he said, his grip on my hand never loosening as we spiraled down what felt like endless flights of stairs. We emerged into an underground parking garage. A black Mercedes with tinted windows sat idling near the exit, its driver already behind the wheel. Dante opened the back door and practically lifted me inside before sliding in beside me. "Vai," he commanded, and the car surged forward. I pressed myself against the opposite door, my heart hammering as I watched the garage entrance recede behind us. What just happened? Who were those people? The Cavalcanti family. Dante pulled out his phone, firing off rapid texts in Portuguese too quick for me to follow. "They've been watching the restaurant, waiting for an opportunity. Your arrival gave them one." An opportunity for what? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't expected in those storm-gray eyes. Concern. To kill us both. You, because you've been asking questions about your brother. Me, because I'm the only thing standing between them and control of the port operations. The weight of it crashed over me. I'd been so focused on Dante as the enemy that I'd never considered there might be worse threats. Lucas discovered their operation. That's why he disappeared. Yes. Dante's jaw tightened. He found evidence that would have destroyed them. They came for him. And He stopped, turning to look out the window at the rain-slicked streets of São Paulo rushing past. "You what?" I pressed. "I got him out, barely." His voice was low, controlled, but I heard something beneath it. Regret? Anger? But not before they'd made it clear what they'd do to anyone connected to him, including his sister. My breath caught. That's why Lucas never contacted me, because they threatened me. He wanted to. Dante finally looked back at me. Every day for the first 6 months, he wanted to call you, to let you know he was alive. I had to convince him that contacting you would only put you in more danger. You had to convince him? The implication hit me. You know where he is. You've been in contact with him this whole time. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Not quite confirmation, but not denial either. What I know and what I can tell you are two different things, Helena. For your safety and his. Rage flared hot in my chest. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to keep my brother from me while I... My voice broke. While I thought he was dead. Do you have any idea what these 8 months have been like? The nightmares, the guilt, the wondering if there was something I could have done differently? Yes. The single word was quiet, but absolute. I know exactly what it's like to lose someone and wonder if you could have saved them. The raw honesty in his voice stopped my angry response. I studied him in the dim light of the car, seeing past the expensive suit and the controlled demeanor to the man beneath. There were shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, a tightness around his mouth that suggested burdens carried for too long. Who did you lose? I asked, my voice softer. Dante was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my sister, Isabella. She was 19. He stared out the window, but I didn't think he was seeing the city anymore. She fell in love with the wrong man, someone from a rival family. I told her it was dangerous, that she needed to end it. She thought I was being controlling, protective for no reason. He didn't need to finish. I could see the end of the story in the set of his shoulders. the clench of his jaw. "They killed her," I whispered. "They made it look like an accident. A car crash on a rainy night," his hand clenched into a fist on his knee. I knew the truth, but I couldn't prove it. By the time I'd built enough power to move against them, 3 years had passed. 3 years of planning, of positioning, of making sure that when I struck, it would be absolute. "Did you destroy them?" "Yes. Every single person who'd been involved. Everyone who'd known and stayed silent. Everyone who'd benefited from her death." His voice was cold now, the Mafia boss returning. I made sure they understood the cost of taking something precious from a Montero. The car turned onto a tree-lined street in Alto de Pinheiros, one of the city's most exclusive neighborhoods. We pulled through iron gates into a private drive, the mansion beyond more intimidating than beautiful. All sharp angles and dark glass. It looked like a fortress designed by an architect with a taste for the ominous. "This is your home?" I asked as the car stopped at the entrance. "One of them." Dante was already out, coming around to open my door. "And yours, for now, until the Cavalcanti situation is resolved." I didn't take his offered hand. "I'm not staying here. You can't just kidnap me because they know where you live, Helena." He said it gently, but the words were no less devastating. "Your apartment in Zona Leste, 3rd floor, Unit 304, the cafe where you work, the bus routes you take. They've been watching you almost as long as I have." Fear clawed at my throat. "Then I'll go somewhere else. Leave the city. I'll..." "Run?" Dante crouched down so we were eye level, his hands resting on the car doorframe, caging me in without touching me. "For how long? They have resources across Brazil, across South America. You'd be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life. Is that what you want?" "I want my life back." The words burst out of me, tears finally spilling over. "I want my brother back. I want to go back to before any of this happened, when Lucas and I were just normal people with normal problems." "I know." Dante's voice was unbearably gentle. "But we can't go back, Helena. We can only go forward. And going forward means keeping you alive long enough to..." He stopped abruptly, as though he'd almost said something he shouldn't. "Long enough to what?" I demanded. "To resolve this situation." But I could tell that wasn't what he'd almost said. I studied his face, this man who'd somehow become the center of my world, even as I'd hated him. In the soft lighting from the mansion's entrance, I could see details I'd missed before. The way his dark hair fell slightly across his forehead despite being styled back. The faint lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he smiled more than his reputation indicated. The fullness of his lower lip that drew my gaze despite everything. "Why?" I asked suddenly. "Why do you care so much about keeping me safe?" "Lucas is gone. His promise to you should have died with his disappearance. You could have let the Cavalcantis take care of me months ago, eliminated a problem, removed someone who was investigating you." Dante's jaw worked, as though he was fighting some internal battle. "Because Lucas trusted me with the most important thing in his world. Because a promise doesn't die just because it becomes inconvenient." He paused, his gray eyes searching mine. "And because you remind me of Isabella, that same fire, that same stubbornness, that same refusal to back down even when wisdom says you should." "I'm not your dead sister," I said, but without heat. "No. You're very much alive." His voice dropped lower, intimate in the close confines of the car. "And I intend to keep you that way, even if you fight me every step." Something in his tone made my pulse quicken. I should have been afraid, should have been planning my escape. But instead, I found myself caught by the intensity in his gaze, by the way the space between us seemed charged with electricity. "I want to negotiate," I said, forcing my mind back to safer ground. "If I'm going to stay here, under your protection, I want terms. Interest sparked in Dante's eyes. You're in no position to negotiate. Aren't I? I lifted my chin. You need me compliant, not fighting you at every turn. That means I get something out of this arrangement beyond just staying alive. A slow smile curved his lips, transforming his face from severe to devastatingly handsome. What do you want, Helena? Information about Lucas. Real information. Not vague promises that he's somewhere safe. I held up a finger as he started to protest. I'm not asking for his location, but I want proof he's alive. A phone call, a video, something. Dante considered this. That can be arranged. What else? I want to know what you're doing about the Cavalcantis. I want to be included in the planning, not kept in the dark, like some damsel who needs protecting. Absolutely not. His voice hardened. That's non-negotiable. You're not getting anywhere near the operational side of this. Then I'm not staying. I moved to get out of the car, but his hand shot out, catching my wrist. Helena. The way he said my name, low and almost pleading, made me stop. I've already lost one woman I was supposed to protect because I didn't take the threat seriously enough. I won't make that mistake again. I can't. The raw vulnerability in his voice cracked something inside me. This wasn't the cold Mafia boss or the calculating businessman. This was a man haunted by failure, by loss, by the weight of promises he couldn't keep. Then help me understand, I said quietly. Tell me what happened to Isabella. The whole truth, not just the sanitized version. He released my wrist, but didn't move away. Why? Because you're asking me to trust you with my life. The least you can do is trust me with your truth. For a long moment, we stayed like that, frozen in the opening of the car door, the night air cool against my skin. Then Dante nodded once, sharp and decisive. Come inside. I'll tell you everything. The mansion's interior was as severe as its exterior, all dark wood and clean lines, more fortress than home. Dante led me through a marble foyer into a study lined with books, gesturing to a leather sofa near a fireplace where a fire already crackled. Whiskey? He asked, moving to a bar cart. I don't drink. You might want to start. He poured 2 fingers into a crystal glass and brought it to me anyway. This isn't an easy story to hear. I took the glass but didn't drink, watching as he poured his own and settled into the chair across from me. The firelight cast shadows across his face, making him look older, wearier. Isabella was supposed to marry someone our family approved of, he began. A man from an allied organization, someone who would strengthen our position. She agreed at first, seemed resigned to it. But then she met Andre Cavalcanti at a charity gala. My breath caught at the name. The same Cavalcantis? The eldest son. Charming, sophisticated, everything she'd been taught to look for in a man. Dante's voice was bitter. What she didn't know was that their entire relationship was a setup. The Cavalcantis wanted access to our shipping routes, our contacts. Andre's job was to seduce her, get her to convince me to form an alliance. But you saw through it. Not at first. His hand tightened around his glass. I thought he genuinely cared for her. I was considering the alliance for her sake. But then Lucas... He stopped, emotion flickering across his face. Lucas found out? I leaned forward, my journalist instincts engaging despite the personal nature of the story. Lucas intercepted communications between Andre and his father, plans for what would happen after the marriage, how they'd use Isabella's access to destroy us from within. Dante drank deeply from his glass. I confronted Isabella with the evidence. She didn't believe me. She thought I was inventing it to control her, to keep her from being happy. So she ran to him, straight into their trap. His voice was hollow now. The car accident happened that same night. She was on her way to meet Andre, to tell him about my accusations. The Cavalcantis couldn't risk her asking questions, couldn't risk her seeing through the deception. I set down my untouched whiskey, my hands shaking. And Lucas helped you prove it was murder. He rebuilt the investigation the police had closed, found witnesses who'd been paid off, surveillance footage that had been lost, evidence of tampering with her car's brakes. Dante's eyes met mine across the firelight. That's when I truly understood what your brother was capable of. His loyalty, his brilliance, his absolute refusal to let injustice stand. Understanding dawned. That's why you protected him. Why you still protect him. He saved my sister's memory, gave me the ability to avenge her properly. Dante leaned forward, his intensity burning through the space between us. So, when the Cavalcantis came for him, when they threatened the only family he had left, I made him the same promise he'd given me. I would protect you, Helena, no matter what it cost. Even if it meant letting you hate me. Even if it meant watching you destroy yourself trying to find him. Tears slipped down my cheeks, but I didn't wipe them away. I don't hate you. You should. His voice was rough. I've lied to you for 8 months. I've manipulated your investigation, controlled your life without your knowledge. I've taken away your choices in the name of protection. The same way you tried to protect Isabella. I understood now. Understood the weight he carried. The fear that drove every decision. You're terrified you'll fail again. Yes. The admission seemed torn from him. Because if I fail with you, if the Cavalcantis get to you the way they got to her, I won't survive it. Not again. The confession hung between us, raw and honest and terrifying in its implications. This wasn't about duty or promises anymore. This was about something deeper, something neither of us was ready to name. Then let me help, I said, my decision crystallizing. Stop trying to protect me from the truth. Let me be part of the solution instead of a problem you have to manage. Dante stood, moving to the fireplace, his back to me. That's exactly what Isabella said, right before she died. I'm not Isabella. I rose too, crossing to stand beside him. And you're not the same man you were then. You're smarter now, more careful. And this time, you have someone who knows what she's walking into. He turned to face me, and the raw emotion in his eyes took my breath away. I can't lose you, Helena. The words hung in the air between us, charged with meaning. Not, I can't lose another person. But you, specifically. Me. Then don't, I whispered. Don't push me away. Don't lock me in a gilded cage and expect me to trust you. Work with me. Let me stand beside you instead of behind you. For a long moment we stood there, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell the subtle spice of his cologne, could count the shades of gray in his eyes. Then slowly, giving me time to pull away, he raised his hand to cup my face. You're going to destroy me, he said softly, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. Completely and utterly. Good, I breathed. Because you've already destroyed me. Only fair we go down together. His laugh was low and rough. Is that a yes to my protection? To staying here, working with me instead of against me? I thought about my empty apartment, my dead-end job, the 8 months I'd spent chasing ghosts and answers. I thought about Lucas, alive somewhere, kept safe by this complex, haunted man. I thought about the Cavalcantis and the very real threat they posed, but mostly, I thought about the way Dante was looking at me right now, like I was precious and dangerous, and exactly what he'd been searching for without knowing it. Yes, I said, but on my terms. No more lies, no more manipulation. We're partners in this. Or I walk. Partners, he agreed, and something in his smile promised this partnership would be far more complicated than either of us anticipated. The guest suite Dante showed me to was larger than my entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked São Paulo's glittering skyline, a king-sized bed dominated one wall, and an ensuite bathroom featured a tub that could fit 3 people comfortably. Everything was decorated in shades of cream and charcoal, expensive and impersonal. "Your clothes from the apartment will be here by morning," Dante said from the doorway, "along with anything else you need." I turned to face him, still processing the whiplash of the evening. 2 hours ago, I'd walked into a restaurant ready to confront my brother's killer. Now I was standing in a Mafia boss's guest room, having agreed to let him protect me from people even more dangerous than he was. "You already sent people to my apartment?" "The moment you got in my car." He didn't sound apologetic. "The Cavalcantis will check there first. Better that they find it empty." "What about my neighbors? Mrs. Silva next door. She's elderly, and if they already relocated to her daughter's house in Campinas, along with anyone else on your floor who might have been questioned." Dante leaned against the doorframe, his tie loosened, the top button of his shirt undone. The small glimpse of his throat made my mouth inexplicably dry. "I told you, Helena. I'm thorough." "You're terrifying," I corrected, but without the heat the words should have carried. His smile was slow and dangerous. "You're only just beginning to understand that." He straightened. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we start planning how to end this." After he left, I explored my gilded cage. The closet held toiletries, a silk robe, even pajamas in my size. The efficiency with which Dante had orchestrated my life was both impressive and unsettling. I showered in that absurdly luxurious bathroom, trying to wash away the tension of the evening, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. Lucas was alive. That single fact kept circling through my thoughts. My brother, who I'd mourned for 8 months, was somewhere safe because of the man I'd spent those same months hating. The irony was almost funny. Almost. I couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., I gave up and padded barefoot through the dark house, the marble cool beneath my feet. I found myself drawn to light spilling from under a door at the end of the hall. When I pushed it open, I found Dante's office. He sat behind a massive desk, still in his dress shirt and slacks, reviewing documents with the focused intensity of a man who rarely let himself rest. He looked up as I entered, and something in his expression softened. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "Too many thoughts." I moved into the room, examining the bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes. "Do you ever sleep?" "Not much." He set down his pen. "Nightmares have a way of making rest seem less appealing than work." I understood that intimately. "What are you working on?" "Inventory of Cavalcanti assets, properties, businesses, people on their payroll." He gestured to the papers spread across his desk. "If we're going to neutralize them, I need to know every piece of their operation." Neutralize. The word was so clinical for what I suspected he actually meant. "You're going to kill them." Dante's eyes met mine, unflinching. "I'm going to remove them as a threat. Permanently. That might mean death for some, imprisonment for others. Exile for the smart ones who take deals when offered." He paused. "Does that bother you?" I thought about Isabella, about Lucas being forced into hiding, about the chaos at the restaurant tonight. "It should," I admitted. "But I can't make myself feel sympathy for people who kill innocent women and threaten my brother." "You're more adaptable to this world than you think." He stood, moving to a sideboard where crystal decanters gleamed. "Now I know you're lying about not sleeping. Come, sit. Tell me what's really keeping you awake." I settled into one of the leather chairs facing his desk while he poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "I keep thinking about what you said, about not being able to lose me." The words felt dangerous to speak aloud. "What did you mean by that?" Dante handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine in a way that sent electricity up my arm. He didn't retreat to his desk, but sat in the chair beside mine, close enough that I could see the weariness in his eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. Exactly what it sounded like, he said quietly. I've spent 8 months watching you, Helena. At first, it was just honoring my promise to Lucas. Make sure his sister stayed safe, stayed ignorant of the dangers lurking around her. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. But somewhere between watching you sell everything you own to fund your investigation and seeing you work 12-hour shifts at that cafe, something changed. My heart hammered. Changed how? I started looking forward to the reports from my people, not just to confirm you were safe, but to hear what you'd done that day, how you'd smiled at a customer, how you'd argued with your landlord about the broken heating, how you'd spent your one day off at the library researching shell corporations. His laugh was self-deprecating. I became obsessed with a woman who was obsessed with destroying me. I wasn't obsessed with destroying you, I protested. I just wanted justice for Lucas. You were magnificent in your fury. His gray eyes held mine, relentless and brilliant and so convinced of your righteousness. I envied that certainty, that ability to see the world in clear blacks and whites. Nothing feels clear anymore, I admitted, taking a sip of the whiskey. It burned pleasantly down my throat. Everything I thought I knew has been turned upside down. Good. Dante's voice was low, intimate in the quiet office. Certainty is dangerous in this world. It makes you predictable, vulnerable. Doubt keeps you sharp. We sat in companionable silence for a moment, the city lights glittering through the windows behind his desk. I should have been uncomfortable, alone with a dangerous man in the middle of the night. Instead, I felt oddly safe, as though this was exactly where I was supposed to be. What are the rules? I asked suddenly. If I'm staying here, working with you, there must be boundaries. Dante studied me over the rim of his glass. You don't leave the property without security. Non-negotiable. He held up a hand as I started to protest. I'm not imprisoning you, Helena. You can go anywhere you want. Do anything you want, but you'll have protection. Fine. What else? You tell me immediately if you notice anything unusual. Anyone following you, any contact from people you don't know, any feeling that something's wrong. His expression was serious. Your instincts kept you alive through 8 months of digging into things that could have gotten you killed. Trust them now. And what about you? I challenged. What are your rules for yourself? He seemed surprised by the question. What do you mean? You're asking me to trust you completely, to put my life in your hands. That means you have to give me something in return. I leaned forward, emboldened by the whiskey and the late hour and the strange intimacy of this conversation. No more lies, no more manipulation. If you're going to make decisions that affect me, I get a say. That could put you in danger. Then I'll be in danger making my own choices instead of being kept safe in ignorance. My voice was firm. Those are my terms, Dante. Take them or I'll find my own way out of this mess. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me with an intensity that made me feel exposed and seen in equal measure. You're not going to make this easy, are you? Would you respect me if I did? His laugh was genuine, transforming his face. No, I suppose I wouldn't. He extended his hand. Partners, then. Full honesty, shared decisions, no more shadows between us. I took his hand, meaning to shake it formally. But the moment our skin touched, the air between us changed. His thumb traced across my knuckles, a caress so light I might have imagined it. Our eyes locked, and I saw the same hunger I felt reflected in his gaze. Helena, he said, my name rough on his tongue. I need you to understand something. What? The word came out breathless. This arrangement, you staying here, working with me, it's already complicated. If we add... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. I'm trying to protect you, but I'm finding it increasingly difficult to maintain appropriate boundaries. Heat flooded through me at the confession. What if I don't want you to maintain boundaries? His hand tightened on mine. You don't know what you're asking. Don't I? I stood, and he rose with me, our hands still joined. I'm 26 years old, Dante. I'm not a child who needs protecting from adult choices. You're vulnerable, grieving, dependent on me for safety. His voice was strained. Taking advantage of that would make me exactly the monster you thought I was. Taking advantage would be lying to me, manipulating me. I stepped closer, closing the distance between us. Being honest about what we both feel, that's something else entirely. And what do you think we both feel? His free hand came up to cup my face, his touch achingly gentle despite the tension in his body. Something dangerous. I was close enough now to see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, to feel the heat radiating from his body. Something we probably shouldn't. But something real, nonetheless. For a heartbeat, we stood frozen, balanced on the knife's edge of decision. Then Dante's thumb traced my lower lip, and every rational thought fled. This is a terrible idea, he whispered. Probably. My hand found his chest, feeling his heart racing beneath expensive cotton. But when has that ever stopped either of us from doing something? His control shattered. He kissed me with a hunger that stole my breath, his arms pulling me against him as though he could make us one person through sheer force of will. I kissed him back with 8 months of pent-up emotion, anger and grief and fear transmuting into pure desire. We broke apart breathing hard, his forehead resting against mine. This changes things, he said. I know. We should probably talk about boundaries, about... I silenced him with another kiss. Later. We'll talk about everything later. Helena. But whatever he was going to say was interrupted by his phone buzzing urgently on the desk. He cursed in Portuguese, reaching for it with obvious reluctance. His expression changed as he read the message, the brief softness vanishing behind cold calculation. What is it? I asked, my skin still tingling from his touch. The Cavalcanti's just made a very serious mistake. He was already typing a response, his free hand running through his hair in agitation. They went after someone under my protection, someone I care about very much. Fear gripped me. Who? He looked up, and I saw fury burning in his eyes. Lucas's girlfriend. They took her an hour ago. The world tilted. Lucas has a girlfriend? He's been in contact with someone this whole time? Marina. She's been with him in hiding. Dante's jaw was tight. The Cavalcantis must have found them. They took her to draw Lucas out, and him to draw me out. Then we go get her, I said immediately. We do nothing. You stay here where it's safe. I'll handle... No. I grabbed his arm. You said partners. You said full honesty and shared decisions. This is both of those things. If my brother's girlfriend is in danger because of his connection to you, then I'm involved. I'm going with you. Absolutely not. Then I'll go by myself. I met his gaze steadily. I'll walk out that door right now and find them on my own. At least with you, I have a chance of surviving. Alone, we both know I won't last the night. Dante's hands clenched into fists. You're going to be the death of me. Probably, I agreed. But I'm going. Those are my terms. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded once, sharp and decisive. Get dressed. Wear dark colors. And Helena? His expression was deadly serious. When we walk out that door, you do exactly what I say when I say it. No arguments, no hesitation. In this world, A moment's delay can mean death. Understood. I was already moving toward the door, adrenaline surging through my veins. And Helena? His voice stopped me at the threshold. After this is over, we're finishing what we started. All of it. The promise in his words sent heat through me despite the gravity of the situation. I'm counting on it. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of an armored SUV wearing black jeans and a dark sweater from the emergency wardrobe Dante's staff had somehow produced. Dante sat beside me, no longer the sophisticated businessman, but something far more dangerous. He'd changed into tactical gear, a gun holstered at his side, his phone constantly buzzing with updates. Marina is being held at a warehouse in Guarulhos, he said, studying a map on his tablet. The Cavalcantis are using her as bait. They know Lucas will try to rescue her, and they're hoping I'll bring enough force that they can justify a full-scale war. So what's the plan? I asked, watching the city blur past through bulletproof windows. We don't give them the war they want. His smile was cold. We give them something much worse. Precision. The driver, a man Dante called Vicente, spoke rapid Portuguese into a radio. I caught enough words to understand that other teams were moving into position, surrounding the warehouse, cutting off escape routes. How many men do you have? I asked. Enough. Dante glanced at me, his expression softening slightly. You're sure about this? It's not too late to turn back, to let me handle it. I'm sure. And I was. Terrified. But sure. If Marina matters to Lucas, then she matters to me. I'm not letting her face this alone. Something fierce and approving flashed in his eyes. When we get there, you stay in the vehicle until I give the all clear. That's non-negotiable, Helena. I wanted to argue, but the look on his face stopped me. This was the Mafia boss, the man who'd destroyed an entire organization to avenge his sister. The man who'd kept my brother alive against impossible odds. If he said stay in the vehicle, I'd stay in the vehicle. The warehouse district was dark and deserted, industrial buildings looming like sleeping giants. Our convoy, 3 SUVs in total, pulled into an alley half a block from the target. Dante's phone lit up with a message. Lucas is already here, he said, his voice tight. Damn fool went in alone. He's trying to save her. I understood that desperation intimately. He probably thought he could trade himself for her and get them both killed. Dante was already moving, checking his weapon with practiced efficiency. Vicente, you stay with Helena. Anyone approaches this vehicle who isn't me or my men, you drive. Understand? Sim, chefe. Dante turned to me, his hand cupping my face with surprising gentleness given the circumstances. I will bring them both back. I promise you. Then he was gone, disappearing into the darkness with a team of 6 men who moved like shadows. I watched from the window as they approached the warehouse, my heart in my throat. He's very good at this, Vicente said quietly, apparently sensing my anxiety. The best I've ever seen. Your brother and his girlfriend will be safe. How long have you worked for him? 12 years, since I was 17. Vicente's eyes never left the warehouse. He saved my life, took me off the streets, gave me purpose. Everything I have, I owe to him. I heard the loyalty in his voice, the same unwavering devotion I'd seen in all of Dante's people. He inspired that somehow. This dangerous man who'd upended my world. Inspired people to follow him into darkness and trust he'd lead them back out. The waiting was torture. Minutes stretched like hours. Then, gunfire, sharp cracks that echoed through the empty district. I lurched forward, but Vicente's arm blocked me. Stay, he commanded. Trust him. More gunfire, then silence. The silence was somehow worse. I counted heartbeats. My hands clenched so tight my nails drew blood. Then movement at the warehouse entrance. Dante emerged first, supporting a young woman with dark hair and blood on her temple. Behind them, 2 of Dante's men escorted a man who made my breath catch. Lucas, my brother. Alive. Real. Walking toward me with his arm in an improvised sling, but otherwise unharmed. I was out of the vehicle before Vicente could stop me, running across the broken pavement toward my brother. Lucas's eyes widened in shock. Helena, what are you? His words were cut off as I crashed into him, sobbing against his chest, feeling his solid warmth, his very real presence. You're alive, I gasped. You're alive, you're alive. I'm okay, Hermanzina. I'm okay. His good arm wrapped around me, holding tight. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you thought... Later, Dante interrupted, his voice sharp. We need to move. The Cavalcantes will have reinforcements coming. Back in the vehicle, now crowded with 6 people, I couldn't stop staring at Lucas. 8 months I'd mourned him, and here he was, thinner than I remembered. A new scar on his left cheek, but undeniably alive. Marina leaned against him, her face pale but her eyes fierce. Thank you, she said to Dante, for coming for me. Thank Helena, Dante replied, his gaze finding mine in the rearview mirror. She's the one who insisted. Lucas looked between us, understanding dawning. You two... It's complicated, I said. That's an understatement, Lucas muttered, but he was smiling. Helena, this is Marina Souza. Marina, my incredibly stubborn sister, who apparently found a way to complicate even her own rescue. I like her already, Marina said, managing a weak laugh despite the blood matting her hair. At Dante's mansion, a doctor was already waiting. He examined Marina's head wound, a concussion but not serious, and reset Lucas's dislocated shoulder with efficient professionalism. I sat with them in one of the guest suites, unable to let Lucas out of my sight. I thought you were dead, I said for the 10th time. 8 months, Lucas. 8 months I thought the Cavalcantes had killed you. I wanted to contact you. Lucas's voice was rough with regret. Every single day. But Dante was right. If they knew you meant something to me, they'd have used you to get to him. They tried anyway, I pointed out, because you wouldn't stop investigating. He shook his head in amazement. Dante told me everything you did. Selling our parents' things, working at that cafe, tracking down informants. Helena, you could have been killed. I thought I was avenging you, I said simply. What else was I supposed to do? Marina spoke up, her voice soft. You're exactly how he described you. Fierce and loyal and willing to burn the whole world down for the people you love. Sounds like you two have that in common, Lucas said, looking at Marina with such tenderness it made my chest ache. They were in love, deeply and obviously. Which is probably why you both drove me insane with worry. A knock at the door, and Dante entered. His gaze swept the room, cataloging injuries and checking for threats with automatic efficiency. The Cavalcantes know we have Marina and Lucas. They'll retaliate. Let them, Lucas said, steel in his voice. I'm done hiding, done letting them control my life. That's not your decision to make alone, Dante replied. Not anymore. They've escalated. Taking Marina was a declaration of war. Then we give them one. I stood, surprising everyone, including myself. You said you've been building a case against them, that you have evidence of their operations. Use it. Destroy them the way you destroyed the people who killed Isabella. Dante's eyes locked on mine. You understand what that means? The violence it will require? The people who will die? I understand that they've had 8 months to hurt the people I love. That they killed your sister. That they'll keep destroying lives until someone stops them. I lifted my chin. So stop them. A slow smile curved his lips. You've changed, Helena. You changed me. I held his gaze. You showed me that sometimes justice isn't clean, that sometimes protecting the people you love means getting your hands dirty. Lucas looked between us, realization dawning. You two are together. It's complicated, Dante and I said simultaneously, then shared a look that was anything but complicated. Clearly, Lucas muttered. Though I suppose I should have seen this coming. You both have the same obsessive all-or-nothing approach to everything, says the man who risked his life for an impossible rescue, Marina pointed out fondly. Over the next 3 days, Dante's mansion transformed into a war room. Lucas, despite his injury, worked alongside Dante to compile evidence against the Cavalcantis. I discovered my brother had his father's gift for financial analysis, tracing money through labyrinthine shell companies with frightening ease. Marina, it turned out, was a lawyer who'd been helping build the legal case. The three of them worked with a synchronicity born of months in hiding together, while I absorbed everything, learning the intricacies of an empire I'd only glimpsed from the outside. Late on the third night, I found Dante alone in his study, reviewing documents. He looked up as I entered, exhaustion evident in the shadows under his eyes. You should be sleeping, I said, moving to stand behind his chair. So should you. But he leaned back into my touch as my hands settled on his shoulders, working at the knots of tension there. I've been thinking, I said quietly, about what happens after, when the Cavalcantis are gone and Lucas is safe. And what have you concluded? His voice was carefully neutral. That I don't want to go back to my old life, that cafe, that apartment, pretending none of this happened. My hands stilled on his shoulders, but I also don't know what my place is in your world. Dante turned his chair, pulling me around to face him. His hands settled on my waist, thumbs tracing patterns through my sweater. Your place is wherever you choose it to be, but if you're asking what I want, I'm asking. I want you here. Not as someone under my protection, but as my equal. His gray eyes were intense in the low light. I want you to finish your journalism degree. Use those investigative skills for something meaningful. Expose corruption. Shine light in dark places. With my resources and your talent, you could change this city. The vision he painted took my breath away. You'd let me investigate your world? I'd encourage it. Keep me honest. Keep my organization clean. His smile was wry. God knows I need someone who isn't afraid to challenge me. And personally? I asked, my heart racing. What do you want personally? His hands tightened on my waist, pulling me closer until I was standing between his legs. I want everything, Helena. I want you in my bed every night, and at my table every morning. I want to know you're safe because you're with me, not because you're hidden away. I want... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. What? I prompted, my hands finding his face, feeling the rough stubble along his jaw. I want to marry you, he said quietly. I want your brother to walk you down an aisle and your name to be Montero. I want children who have your fire and your brilliance. I want a lifetime of complicated mornings and dangerous evenings and everything in between. Tears pricked my eyes. That's a lot to want. Too much? His vulnerability was devastating. No. I kissed him, soft and certain. Not enough. I want all of that too. I want to wake up next to you and argue with you and build something real in the middle of all this darkness. He stood, lifting me easily, carrying me toward the door. Then let's start now. Now? I laughed against his neck. Lucas and Marina are down the hall. They're adults. They'll understand. His smile was wicked. Besides, your brother owes me for keeping you alive for 8 months. He can deal with some uncomfortable awareness of what that service has earned me. I should have protested more. Should have insisted we wait for privacy, for a better time. But I'd spent 8 months in grief, and another 3 days in constant tension. And Dante was warm and solid, and looking at me like I was precious and powerful, and exactly what he'd been waiting for his entire life. So I kissed him again, deeper this time, and let him carry me toward a future I'd never imagined, but suddenly couldn't imagine living without. Morning light streamed through Dante's bedroom windows, painting everything gold. I woke wrapped in his arms, my body deliciously sore, my heart fuller than I'd thought possible. He was already awake, watching me with an expression that made my breath catch. I could get used to this, I murmured, tracing the defined muscles of his chest. You'd better. His hand cupped my face. Because I'm not letting you go. Not now, not ever. A knock shattered the moment. Dante cursed, reaching for his phone on the nightstand. His expression changed as he read the message, all tenderness vanishing behind cold fury. What is it? I asked, already dreading the answer. The Cavalcantis just made their final mistake. He was out of bed, already pulling on clothes. They've gone to the authorities. They're claiming I kidnapped Marina and Lucas, that I'm holding them against their will. My stomach dropped. Can they do that? Make that stick? They have judges on their payroll, prosecutors. If they move fast enough, they can get warrants, force a search of this property. His voice was tight with controlled rage. They're trying to back me into a corner, force me to either surrender Lucas and Marina, or prove I'm exactly the criminal they claim I am. I scrambled out of bed, pulling on the silk robe I'd discarded hours ago. Then we go public first. Lucas and Marina can give statements that they're here voluntarily, that you saved them. And admit that a federal prosecutor's daughter has been living with a suspected crime lord. Dante's smile was bitter. Marina's father was Marcus Souza, one of the few honest prosecutors in São Paulo. That would destroy her family's reputation and give the Cavalcantis exactly what they want. Proof that I corrupt everyone I touch. Then what do we do? He was quiet for a moment, his tactical mind clearly working through scenarios. We end this. Today. We release everything we have on the Cavalcantis. The evidence Lucas gathered, the financial records, everything. We destroy them so completely they can't retaliate. That will expose you too, I pointed out. Some of that evidence implicates your operations. I know. His jaw was tight. But it's the only way to protect the people I love. If I go down, so be it. As long as you're safe, Lucas is safe, Marina is safe. The casual way he lumped me in with the people he loved made my chest tight. We're not letting you go down. Helena. No. I moved to him, gripping his arms. You said we're partners. That means we find a solution that protects everyone, including you. Before he could respond, Lucas burst into the room, Marina close behind. My brother took in the scene, me in a robe clearly from Dante's closet, the rumpled bed, our proximity, and grimaced. Really didn't need that visual confirmation, he muttered. But we have bigger problems. The police are at the gates. They have a warrant. Dante's expression went deadly calm. How many? 6 cars, plus federal agents. Lucas's face was grim. This isn't a normal search warrant. This is a full-scale raid. They're not here for evidence, Marina said, her lawyer's mind clearly analyzing. They're here to make a statement, to show that the Cavalcantis can reach even you, Dante. Through the windows, I could see flashing lights filtering through the trees. My pulse raced, but my mind was suddenly crystalline clear. 8 months of investigative work, 3 days of studying Dante's operations, and a lifetime of my brother's lessons in finding patterns where others saw chaos. I have an idea, I said, but you're all going to hate it. They turned to me, and I outlined my plan. It was reckless and dangerous and depended on timing so precise it bordered on impossible. But it was also the only way I could see to protect everyone. As I'd predicted, they hated it. Absolutely not, Dante said flatly. You're not putting yourself in that kind of danger. It's not your choice, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice was. This is my decision, my risk to take. Helena, Lucas started, you don't get a vote either. I looked at each of them in turn. For 8 months, all of you protected me by keeping me in the dark. Now it's my turn to protect you. All of you. Marina was the first to crack. She's right. It could work. It's insane, Dante growled. So is everything else we've done. I took his hand, feeling his pulse racing beneath my fingers. Trust me. The way I've learned to trust you. For a long moment, we stood frozen. Then Dante nodded once, sharp and decisive. We do this my way. You follow my lead exactly. No improvisation. Deal. 20 minutes later, I walked down the grand staircase to find a dozen police officers and federal agents in Dante's foyer. At the center stood Marco Cavalcanti himself, his smug expression faltering slightly when he saw me. Miss Costa, he said, clearly surprised. We've been looking for you. Your neighbors reported you missing. I wasn't missing. I descended the stairs with as much dignity as I could muster in borrowed designer clothes. I've been staying here as Mr. Montero's guest. Guest? His smile was patronizing. Or hostage. We have reports that you and your brother have been held here against your will. Those reports are false. Lucas appeared on the landing above, Marina beside him. We're here voluntarily. Dante Montero saved our lives. From what, exactly? A federal agent I didn't recognize stepped forward. According to our information, Mr. Montero is the threat, not the solution. According to your information from the Cavalcantis, I let steel enter my voice. The same organization that's been running illegal operations through São Paulo's port for the past decade? The same people who murdered Isabella Montero and made it look like an accident? Marco's face went pale. Those are serious accusations, Miss Costa. Accusations you can't prove. Can't I? I pulled out my phone, the one Dante had given me with encrypted files loaded and ready. I'm a journalist, Mr. Cavalcanti. Or I was. Before I spent 8 months investigating my brother's disappearance. I have evidence of money laundering, extortion, and murder. All meticulously documented. All traceable back to your family. That evidence is inadmissible, Marco blustered. Obtained illegally, not by me. Marina descended the stairs, every inch the federal prosecutor's daughter. I obtained it legally, with proper warrants, working with my father's office. Mr. Montero provided protection while I built the case, but the investigation is entirely legitimate. It was a lie, a carefully constructed fiction we'd assembled in 20 minutes. But it was plausible enough to create doubt, to buy us time. The federal agent looked between us, clearly uncertain. If you have evidence of criminal activity, why hasn't it been filed? Because I was waiting to ensure my witnesses would be safe, Marina replied smoothly. The Cavalcantis have a history of eliminating threats. But as of this morning, all evidence has been submitted to multiple agencies simultaneously. Federal prosecutors in São Paulo, Brasilia, and Rio. International authorities in the US and Europe. Even if something happens to me or my witnesses, the case will proceed. I watched Marco's face as understanding dawned. We'd outmaneuvered him. Even if he had us all arrested, killed, the evidence would survive. His empire was already crumbling. This is a setup, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Montero orchestrated this entire... Mr. Montero saved my life, I interrupted. He protected my brother when your family tried to kill him. He gave shelter to a prosecutor's daughter while she built a case against corruption. If those actions make him a criminal in your eyes, I'd say your perspective is severely skewed. The police officers were already backing away, sensing the political minefield this had become. A federal agent arguing with a prosecutor's daughter, accusations flying in multiple directions, evidence allegedly filed with multiple agencies. This wasn't a simple raid anymore. This was a public relations nightmare. We'll be investigating these claims thoroughly, the lead agent said finally. All of them. Mr. Montero, Miss Costa, you'll need to make formal statements. Of course, Dante said smoothly, appearing at the top of the stairs like a king surveying his domain. My lawyers will coordinate with your office. We have nothing to hide. After they left, the four of us stood in the sudden silence of the foyer. Then Lucas started laughing, slightly hysterical. That was insane, he said. Completely insane. I can't believe it worked. It hasn't worked yet, Marina cautioned, but she was smiling. We've bought time, created enough confusion that they can't move against us immediately, but we still need to make good on the evidence claim. We will. Dante's arm came around my waist, pulling me against his side. We have everything we need. Lucas's original investigation, the files I've been compiling for 3 years, Marina's legal expertise. By the time we're done, the Cavalcantis won't just be destroyed, they'll be erased. Over the next month, we made good on our promises. The evidence went public in a coordinated release that made international headlines. Federal prosecutors, unable to ignore such blatant corruption, launched investigations that uncovered decades of criminal activity. The Cavalcanti Empire crumbled, its members arrested or fleeing the country, their assets seized. Dante's role remained ambiguous, portrayed in some media as a vigilante who'd helped expose corruption, in others as a criminal who'd eliminated competition. But with Marina's father vouching for his cooperation and no concrete evidence of current illegal activity, prosecutors ultimately declined to file charges. Lucas and Marina moved to an apartment in Jardines, finally able to live openly. My brother returned to his old life with a new appreciation for its normalcy, while Marina joined her father's office, working to clean up the corruption that had nearly destroyed them all. As for me, I enrolled in journalism school to finish my degree. But I also stayed with Dante, moving into his mansion not as a guest or someone under protection, but as his partner in every sense. 6 months after the Cavalcanti Empire fell, Dante proposed properly, not with manipulation or necessity, but with a simple question asked in the garden where we'd first kissed after everything changed. Marry me, Helena, not because you need my protection, or because it serves some strategic purpose. Marry me because you love me, because you want to build a life together, because you can't imagine waking up anywhere but beside me. Yes, I said, tears streaming down my face. Yes to all of it. The wedding was small, intimate. Just Lucas walking me down the aisle, Marina as my maid of honor, and a handful of people who'd become family. Nothing like the society spectacle I might have expected. Instead, it was perfect, personal, ours. Our first child, a daughter, was born 18 months later. We named her Isabella, after Dante's sister. 6 months after that, I discovered I was pregnant again. Twins, the doctor announced, and Dante's face transformed with joy. Our family is growing, he said that night, his hand on my barely there bump while our daughter slept in the next room. Too fast, I laughed. At this rate, we'll need a bigger house. Then we'll buy one. His lips found my temple. I meant what I said that first night, Helena. I want everything with you. A lifetime of complicated mornings and dangerous evenings and a house full of children who have your fire. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, broken and grieving, selling everything to chase vengeance. I thought about the night I'd walked into that restaurant ready to confront a killer. I thought about every moment that had led me here, to this man, this life, this impossible happiness. I love you, I said, the words no longer frightening but freeing. I love our chaos and our family and the life we're building. Even though I'm still dangerous? He teased, but I heard the real question beneath. Especially because of that. I turned in his arms to face him. You're dangerous to our enemies, and protective of everyone you love. You've built an empire, but you'd burn it all down to keep us safe. That's not weakness, Dante. That's strength. His kiss was soft, reverent, full of promises. My Helena, my wife, my everything. And as I fell asleep in his arms, our daughter dreaming in the next room and our twins growing safely inside me, I realized I'd found something more valuable than revenge or justice or any of the things I'd thought I wanted. I'd found home. Not in a place, but in this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who'd seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. Who'd protected me when I didn't know I needed it, challenged me when I'd needed to grow, and built a future with me that was better than anything I'd dared to imagine. We'd started with hatred and ended with love. Started with lies and ended with truth. Started with loss and ended with the family I'd always dreamed of. Numerous and loud and full of the fierce devotion that ran in both our bloods. The Mafia boss and the journalist. The protector and the truth seeker. The man who dealt in shadows and the woman determined to shine light. Together we were unstoppable. Together we were home.